first class I taught when I got to the University of Illinois was Western civilization. I had about 700 students. I was a brand new assistant professor. I had just been hired. And so I counted on this book. I knew how successful it had been, so I adopted it. And so I used it, and I talked to John McKay and John Buckler about the book. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, John McKay came to see me, and he said that he had read my book, which is about seamstresses in 18th century France. And he said, you know, the way you handled the story of everyday life, of ordinary people, your interest in social history, that really fits extremely well with the spirit of the textbook. And he asked me, I was very honored, and surprised, but very honored when he asked me if I would be interested in taking over some of the chapters. The study of history is really important for a number of reasons. It teaches students about the richness and the diversity of the human experience, and I think that that's something that all students and people of all ages really need to learn, and it's an invaluable lesson for understanding the past and also for understanding today's society. Study of history is one of the best places for students to learn those crucial skills in reading and analysis and interpretation. We ask them to read both primary and secondary sources, and A History of Western Society really emphasizes both the historical narrative but also working with visual sources, artifacts in the new edition. By studying history and by encountering these different kinds of sources, students learn skills in reading, analysis, and expression ultimately in their assignments that will serve them throughout their lives and careers. I would like students to leave the course aware that people have many different perspectives on the past, that the past is not just a narrative of events, of things that have happened, but it's also a story that is told by people, and it's a story that is debated and discussed, and one in which people actually have their own version of their story, their own version of what happened, and that matters to them for different reasons. That might be professional historians who have debates about different issues, or it might be people who experience the past from different perspectives. And so we try really hard to include primary sources from different perspectives, to choose images that highlight different elements of people's lives so that they don't just have a narrative, a linear narrative, or one story over time, but they become aware of all the multiple stories that go into making a history of Western society. We've added to the interest in social history by bringing in all of the new developments in the field of social history over the last, let's say, 20 years, and that is to say the emphasis on material culture and material artifacts, and we now have many pictures of artifacts in the book. We've also added a lot on cultural history to the book, and that's not to say the old-fashioned kind of high-level cultural history, but really the history of understanding people's identities and people's experience and the meaning that they make out of their everyday life. That's one big set of changes. We have also really changed the book by emphasizing the connections that tied Europe to the rest of the world. And so in every chapter, we're always trying to pay attention to contextualize what's going on in Europe with what's going on in the rest of the world, and also to draw in the ways that Europe may have borrowed certain ideas or technologies or other things from other parts of the world, and to always keep in mind this two-way exchange between Europe and its neighbors close by or maybe even further away. And so those are two elements that have really been important in the new modification.